Hi, Hannah and Eileen. How are you today?
Hi, great, great. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you as well. Thank you so much for taking time to speak with me. I loved Spacewoman. So,
Great.
uh,
Thanks.
so Hannah, I'm going to start with you. You've made several documentaries about influential women. So, what was it about Eileen and her story that made you want to tell it?
Sure. I'd read the book when the producers came to me about the film, and I could immediately see how I could knit all this possibly into a film, like the emotional story of Eileen's challenges that she had in her background, and then actually with her own family, knitted into the kind of jeopardy of these missions. And I kind of saw it culminating maybe in her last mission, where there was also, quite a lot of jeopardy there. And I wanted to kind of learn something about being an astronaut, fear, control, emotion, and how that comes into all our lives, and particularly as a mother and a working mum. I thought that was a story that women would like to watch, a different kind of space story than we've maybe seen before. So all of that made me think this will be a really interesting film to do.
I love that. And Eileen, were you on board with this from the get-go, or did it take some convincing?
It took some convincing. I think it actually took really not as much convincing as some time from the first time that Keith Haviland approached me about making the film. It was more of me thinking about it and making sure that meant because I mean this is not something I had been planning for in my life, so I had to think about what was the commitment, what would they need me to do, but also how would it affect my family? It does is my husband on board? Did my kids want that story on the screen? And my siblings, did they want the story of my parents struggled through my dad struggled through alcoholism. My mother had all kinds of issues with depression and other medical issues. And you really, to tell my story, you have to tell the story of my growing up. But did we want to put my parents, although they're passed away, did we want their story on the screen? Well, I felt that I needed my siblings' approval to do that. So I talked to them. They were actually very supportive. They thought, yeah, we think it'd be great to put your story out there. So once I got ready for it, I said yes, and I had to get rid of some of the other obligations I had because when I say yes to something, I'm in it 100%. I don't do things halfway That's true. because I wanted a really good final product, and I didn't want to hold up the film team because I was not, helping them with an interview or something they needed. So I went in 100%.
That's
And
awesome.
also, you start a film like that, you don't, I always say that for me making a documentary, you don't sit someone down on a first date and say, right, can I just know, are you going to marry me like down the line a year later? Are you
Right.
people, "Oh, definitely not." But the thing is, sometimes you might. So it's the same with the documentary. You don't sit down and say, right, I want to do this, and this will come out and this will be really emotional. You don't do that because that's just terrifying at the start. What you do is you're clear in your intentions. You're going to tell something meaningful and emotionally meaningful. And I think there's sort of an unsaid thing that we're really going to go into this, but you let it unfold itself. And so what Eileen did is she kind of trusted the process a lot, which is why I think you managed to get a good film with a documentary maker. You have to have contributors trusting in your hands, their lives.
No, that totally makes sense. Eileen, were you surprised that your siblings were so on board?
My sister was on board right away, and you'll see that she was in some of the interviews.
Mhm.
My brother had to think about it for a while because I don't think it was so. My sister actually lives in Florida now, so she like watches the space missions go up, and so she kind of thinks about it more. My brother, on the other hand, is raising his kids, and he works the night shift, and so he had a lot going on in his life. He had to think about it. And he was okay in the end. And my brother is not actually in the film, but he provided a lot of the pictures that we needed of like our family back in the old days. Like I think we start with a picture of the Collins family on the farm, and they're all like dirty and grubby in their clothes, and When they were came Irish from immigrants. they were, yeah, they were Irish immigrants that moved to Pennsylvania, and life was hard for them back then. And I actually knew my great aunts and great uncles. I actually knew them when I was a little kid, so I think they would be really proud to see that their niece of many generations, went on to fly in space. I mean, who would have thought of that back all those years ago?
Right, right. Um, Hannah, I liked how you mentioned a little bit about how you could immediately see the documentary unfolding. Did anything kind of surprise you throughout this process that kind of maybe made you think about it a little differently?
Yeah, definitely. I think I thought at first it was going to be a kind of look at the kind of conflict between kind of control, fear, and control and emotion, and controlling your emotions, and the control you need to be an astronaut and to be in space, and how that impacted other areas of your life, like being a mother and in family. And I think what I didn't realize, I turned up to interview Eileen the first time to talk to her. We'd never met. And she was in Elmira, her family home. And there was the Serenity Prayer from Alcoholics Anonymous that her dad had had, and it was framed there. And it's all about control what you can, and you can't control everything. And what happened in the film was I realized, no, actually, for her to have been an amazing astronaut, she hadn't just learned to control her emotions, she'd actually learned that you can't control everything, and that's what you need to be an astronaut. And it's knowing when you can't. And maybe that's like a motto for life too. It was certainly a motto in Alcoholics Anonymous. So that was huge for me. That was kind of huge in the film, and I didn't expect any of that.
That's definitely something that I say the Serenity Prayer frequently in my life as well. So um, this film is very, very inspirational for myself. But I want to know from the both of you, what do you hope that people take away from watching it?
Well, I think Hannah just answered one of the big ones is you can't control everything, which you can and can't. But I think I'll add to that is, you can be at any stage of your life and have a dream and it's what you really want to do. And sometimes you just give up on it because you say, well, life is just overwhelming. I have all these problems. But sometimes the problems in your life, which by the way, you cannot run away from your problems. You have to face them, as I say in the film, face your problems as challenges. But sometimes the skills that you get from solving problems at different points in your life are skills that you need to go on and do the kind of things to make your dreams come true and be willing to take a risk and take a risk in the sense like I took a risk when I was scared to call my local airport and ask them to teach me how to fly. I was 19 years old, going on 20, and I wanted to fly airplanes, but I was afraid they were going to say, no, you can't fly airplanes because, you're a girl or you're too poor. Obviously you don't have the money. Look at you. Or, who knows? Maybe I was too young. I mean, I was thinking of all, don't do that to yourself. Just go ahead and take that risk in the sense of do something. I mean, courage is the ability to overcome fear. So do those kind of things. And if I had not taken that first step, I wouldn't be here today. So, maybe that's one of the many messages you can get from Spacewoman.
And I think for me, I wanted you to see, I'm always trying to make films about women. If I make a lot of films about women, not perfect people, like you don't have to be perfect in life. You can't be, you can't do everything brilliantly all the time. So what? That doesn't matter. It was inspiring for that reason. Like if you hadn't felt this is real people with all the messiness of life, I love that because that is, as Eileen says, it can be the making of you as well, you know. So I hope that people get that inspiring message from the film.
I'm sure they will. I definitely did. So thank you for that. Um, and then with this being Women's History Month, is there any piece of advice that you could give to young women who are starting to navigate their own journeys, especially in male-dominated fields?
Well, without a doubt, start by reading books. That's what got me going. And also watching films. I mean, I watched all the science fiction films I could find because that was what inspired me. But I would say it really started by reading books. And the reason I mention that to kids today is they're scrolling on their phone, they're doing social, that's okay. It's just that you don't want to be doing it 24/7. You don't want to do too much of that. And I find that reading books it calms you down. It helps lower your anxiety. You can get into a quiet place, read a story because your imagination you're going to have to visualize what's going on in these stories and it helps make you more creative. So the advice I give today is kind of helped me in my early days was read fiction, read nonfiction, read about great people that went before you and great things that they did. Read history, read case studies. There's just so much out there that whatever interests you. So that's kind of the advice that I give to young people.
Amazing, amazing. Hannah, is there anything you wanted to add?
No. I
Okay.
can't think of anything. I
She
mean,
she
just
pretty much said it all.
no, I think
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's like, I tell you what, in today's world, you could almost take it for granted. Do we really need to make sure things can happen, like to give women equal footing? You know, that happens in the world of docs. There's been an idea of should it be 50-50 for female directors? And people say, well, that's a not very good idea. But sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to do that sort of thing because actually, if there's a system happening where people are picking people that are just like them, whether it be any sort of diversity, you sometimes have to do things to break that because in storytelling, say in filmmaking, you want all those perspectives. So I'm all for what the point where Eileen learned to fly those military jets was the start of it all. And if they hadn't gone out there and decided that they had to do this proactively, it might not have happened. So sometimes you have to do those things.
Right, right. Um, Unfortunately, I'm out of time, but it was amazing getting to meet both of you. Thank you again for speaking with me and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. That was great.
Thanks.
Lovely to meet you.
Enjoyed meeting you. Thanks.